Our life is a life of bondages. We are bound to so many things. First of all, to our body, which we think is us. Our bondage is so blind that we believe that body is us, and yet in front of us, the body is changing every day, every hour, every second. But we don't see it. Not only that we don't see it, but everybody around us also, we think they are ours. My spouse, my children, my friends, my money, my car. Between the wrong belief and a blind belief that we are the body and everything around us being ours, this creates our ego. And ego is suffering. Why? Because ego is the total of all our bondages. Bondages makes us run. Bondages makes us trying to preserve what we have. We suffer when we lose them. Every single relationship with either an object or a person or a situation is a bondage. Bondage prevents us from becoming free. The spiritual freedom is not easy. It comes after hard work, internal shifting, understanding, developing the wisdom and the ability to discriminate right from wrong. Journey within is a tough journey. It requires many sacrifices in life, many understandings, applying the inner spiritual wisdom to the outside world, and ultimately the flame of freedom starts showing up little by little. In the beginning, it is gonna be flickering, not steady, but every single day, life brings important lessons for you to learn. If you learn from them, the flame keeps on getting brighter and brighter. Over the period of Christmas weekend, I visited my son in Texas and my 3 beautiful grandchildren, 3 boys. Had a wonderful, lovely time. But when I was there were a couple of things I observed about my son that I didn't like. Now, out of the whole world, me and my son are the most closest. We synchronize well. We click very well. Our likes are so much coinciding with each other. And of course, he's my blood. And we love each other a lot. So I thought it was appropriate for me to tell him something about a couple of things that I did not like, that I noticed when I was there. So after I came home, I sent him a text message about these couple of things, that for the New Year's wish, I wish you do not do such and such things. And of course, what followed after that was very traumatic. The discussions started. He did not take it well. The advice that I gave him, he could not digest, and discussions flared up. It lasted 2 days, 3 days. He got upset that I told him what to do. He's 35-year-old. And the way he took it, it hurt me also. That I considered him my blood. I considered him part of me, so I could tell him anything. So I got hurt that he did not take this well. So the whole harrowing period lasted 2 to 3 days. Now we are back to normal. I apologized. I said, I did not think of your feelings. I'm sorry about it. And everything ended well. No problem. But these 3 days of suffering made me realize, and it taught me very important lessons. After I had sent the text, same evening I was listening to Osho, and one person had asked a question that giving advice to others, it seems so easy, but following the same advice ourselves seems very difficult. Why is that? Osho gives a beautiful reply. He says, if your own advice does not work for yourself, how do you think the same advice is going to work for others? If you don't follow your own advice, what makes you think that others are ready to follow your advice? If you give advice to someone without them asking for it, that means whatever you are giving advice about, they already have formed their ego around the things that you don't like, and they do like. It could be anything that you don't like, but that person likes. He already has formed his ego around that thing. And so when you give the advice, the ego is not going to accept it very well. The ego is going to fight back, going to defend itself, that what I'm doing is correct. And it was a beautiful discussion. Unfortunately, came 12 hours after I already had sent the text to my son. Normally, I do not give advice, and spiritually, I know that giving advice is useless, and it is an invasion of someone's privacy, and it is a violence. Even though you mean well, everybody has their egos built up around their likes and dislikes. And whenever somebody comes and gives the advice which is not asked for, it feels like somebody is invading your fortress that you have built for yourself. Every brick and mortar that you have put in to build up this ego gets invaded, and the ego rebels. So obviously I understood this. So I normally do not give advice to anyone unless somebody asks for, whether it is spirituality or veganism. If they ask for, I go into very detailed discussion. But if they don't ask for, I don't. But with my son, I thought it was a different story. But life taught me a very good lesson, that no matter how much close you think these relationships are, spiritually speaking, every soul is different. Every soul requires the freedom in their own way. And even though you mean well, and even though you may feel that you are right in your own way, you have no right to give advice to others or try to change others. So the life brought me an important lesson. That one, I had committed a crime, spiritually speaking. Trying to change others is not good, because you are invading somebody's privacy. You are causing a violence at a spiritual level, even though normally we believe the violence is only a physical violence, but the violence at the mind level is also a violence which leads to suffering. A physical suffering can heal very well. If you have some wounds from a physical attack on the others, it can heal within a week or two. But if you invade somebody's privacy at their mind level, where the ego is residing, the wounds of this attack can last for a whole life. So Mahavir saw this, and he preached non-violence, not only at the body level, but also at the mind level. So whatever we speak, whatever we act out, if we keep an eye on, if we become aware of our actions, whether physical actions or verbal actions, what we speak, everything has a long-lasting effect, and it leads to violence. So I learned the lesson hard way, because I believed my son was very close to me. And so that was a spiritual mistake. I definitely apologize. Everything is normal. But more important thing that I learned from this was I got upset because of these discussions. And the rule of spirituality is that if you suffer, you made a spiritual mistake somewhere. So my telling him or giving him advice was a mistake spiritually, and it did upset him. And understandably, I should not have done it. But more than that, when I got upset myself that he was not listening to the advice well, even though it was meant well, that also showed me that my ego also was alive, at least from the angle of my relationship with my own son, that I believed was real. That was a spiritual fatal mistake, because in spirituality, as you go deeper, you transcend your ego. But this valuable experience exposed the fact that I still had the ego. Even though I have no ego left with when it comes to others, but the ego is still alive. It doesn't matter whether it is with your own son or with others. As long as the ego is still alive, your spiritual journey has not reached to the final destination. You may be on the right path, but as long as the ego is there, you are not free from the bondages of this ego. So I realized that my suffering came because my ego was also alive. He did not take it well because he had built up ego around what he liked, and my advice was attacking his likes, which was part of his ego, and it's made him suffer. But at the same time, my suffering showed me that I'm still not free from the bondages of relationship in the sansara. So this was a major step, and it made me rise higher spiritually. In spiritual world, whatever you give to others is immediately rewarded by giving you receiving the same thing. By understanding that trying to change others, giving advice to others is invading their freedom, because life is a journey. Every soul has their destination to reach. Every soul has lessons to learn, and the life is the most important teacher of all. No matter how much knowledge you learn in the books, until you go through the experience yourself, you do not learn. So sometimes we become impatient, and in the name of love, we start giving advice to our own friends, relatives, spouse, without realizing that teaching anything verbally to others doesn't mean anything until life experience comes and the life teaches. And when you are taught by the life, that becomes the lesson for life. If you learn. But if you don't learn, suffering comes. But every soul has a right to choose its own path for this learning. So giving advice is a futile thing. It creates unnecessary disturbances, frictions, and that's why it is a violence. So when you do not invade somebody's life, somebody's ego, you are respecting their freedom and you are allowing them to learn from their own life, which is the most loveful thing to do. When you consider other person as a soul, an independent soul, you are giving ultimate love to them. Love and freedom goes simultaneously. We don't think that way, but this is how the spirituality works. When you give freedom to others, you are raising their importance. You're raising importance of their own thoughts, their own beliefs, their own thinking. And this is the biggest gift you can give to them. If you force your own ideas onto others, it's almost like making another person a slave of your ideas. At a physical level, slavery has started becoming extinct, which actually at one time flourished. But at mind level, slavery or enslaving others, the practice of enslaving others is going on. The commercials on the billboard, they're invading your mind and penetrating your ego. You may be believing that drinking is bad, but if an advertisement is made in front of you where a beautiful lady or a handsome man seems to be drinking and enjoying it, you relate those things together and you become blind to the fact that drinking is bad. You end up drinking, and then little by little you develop the habit. That lady and that man disappears, but your habit of drinking becomes permanent. This is how slavery is going on at the mind level. Your mind becomes slave to others' suggestions. Besides this, every day, everyone keeps on giving advice to others. These advices are given but nobody likes to receive the advice. My wife enjoys giving advice to others. Again, she means well. So I asked her, does anyone ever come to you and ask for advice? She said, no. I said, how much time are we wasting by giving advice to others? If we stop giving advice, we are giving the freedom to others to experience, to go through the experiences of life. So this past Christmas weekend was a learning experience for me. And my ultimate and the last bondage to the sansara broke down, realizing that there is nothing yours. Last trace of ego broke down, and it made me go higher spiritually into more freedom. Freedom from sansara, freedom from relationship, freedom from illusory idea of ownership, that you own your son, your spouse, your children, your money. There is nothing yours. What we believe yours, what we believe what is ours, is an illusion. So when this illusion is lifted and the reality comes to the surface, what is left for you? Your own soul and nothing else. Your soul is the only thing that is yours, and there is no way to take that away. So the stroke of life taught me that what you give to others, you also get that in return. Giving freedom to others makes sense spiritually, but at the same time, by giving the freedom to others, teaches us a valuable lesson and a reminder that just the way they need to be free and you are respecting their freedom, you are also becoming free from them. Now onwards, if I respect freedom of my son and his life experiences to teach him what needs to be taught, which I thought is the right thing, it is not necessarily the right thing for her, and I could be wrong too. But by making that decision not to teach him anything, my mind activity slows down significantly. Now I don't have to think anymore that I want to change somebody's life, teach them a lesson, teach them the right thing, not anymore. It's like my job in sansar is over. I'm literally retired from sansaric life. Of course, as a doctor, people come to me, ask for advice. I'm bound to give the advice because that's what they are here for. But in the rest of the non-professional life, I don't need to tell anybody what is right, what is wrong. Imagine the freedom, imagine the peace that follows this, and it did. After careful understanding, analyzing the whole situation, applying my wisdom, and my spiritual journey so far taught me a very important lesson, and I broke the last bondage, which was, to me, was the strongest. But those bondages never can stand the awakening that happens within. And you realize ultimately it's only your soul that's yours. It's time to make friends with your soul and realize the illusory nature of this relationship which generate bondages. If you like something, you become slave to it. You buy a dog because you like the dog and you think you are the owner. Wait till the leash breaks loose and the dog runs away. Who is running after whom? If you are the owner of the dog should not be running away. Dog owns you. Any relationship where you like something or someone, you are becoming slave to that thing or a person or a situation. Realizing this breaks these bondages and makes you rise spiritually at a higher level. And as you rise spiritually, you become more freer and freer and freer. Ultimately, you settle down in your own soul, and that's nirvana. Have a good day.